My clan believed this sword was forged in heaven for a deity. Even in our darkest moments, the sword was never to be used.
For those of you who don't know, Heavenly Sword is a hack-and-slash PlayStation 3 exclusive title developed by Ninja Theory which was released in 2007. Yet despite the critically acclaimed and well-established brand, Heavenly Sword was overseen by many for various reasons, mainly because no one had a PlayStation 3 when this game was released. Understandable when each system was $600 compared to today's $300 slim version. So in this review I'll go into detail describing the game's story, presentation, gameplay, entertainment, and finally give my own rating describing the game's ups and downs in hopes of shedding some light into this title. What's up everybody and welcome to my review of the PlayStation 3 exclusive Heavenly Sword. As the title implies, the story itself revolves around the Heavenly Sword, a weapon wielded by a mystical warrior that was sent from the heavens to fight the forces of evil during the reign of the evil Raven Lord. The artifact ends up with the leader of a rebelling clan, Master Shen, who hopes that one day the Heavenly Warrior will return and reclaim it. A few years later and you'll see that a warrior is indeed born as predicted, but instead of a boy like the legend says, is actually a girl named Nariko, the daughter of Master Shen and heir to the Heavenly Sword. To everyone's disbelief, she becomes hated by her own clan and at one time was even at the point of death by her own father. She eventually grows up into a young warrior and is then tasked by her father to guard the Heavenly Sword. But when the evil King Bohan finally captures Master Shen, Nariko is left with no choice but to wield the sword in order to save her father and clan. But at a price. In exchange for divine power, the weapon slowly drains the life force of its wielder. Because of this, Nariko and her adopted sister Kai only have a matter of mere days to rescue Master Shen and her clan before her life is drained away. Set in a fictional Asian-inspired background, the story isn't anything new, but the beautiful cutscenes and the well-made characters make it interesting enough that it won't feel like the same thing from other games with similar storylines.
And I'm part of you. Do not abandon me. Not now, I need you the most.
Okay, visually, Heavenly Sword looks amazing and the graphics are really top notch. Background landscapes add a depth of vast space and further enhance to the beauty of the game itself. The character models are so good that I couldn't believe this game was released in 2007. The lip syncing, the skin textures, and the creative designs that sets each character apart from the others are well crafted. The environments themselves are done so well that I sometimes just stand there for a few seconds to admire their own beauty. They range from snow-covered battle arenas to an immense castle surrounded by mountains and huge waterfalls, and finally to a massive mountainous landscape where the final battle takes place. All of these things come together to create one of the best looking exclusives for the PlayStation 3. The music also has a giant impact in the game as well. 1 minute you are listening to soothing music while running around Bohan's fortress, and then the next thing you are bombarded with epic soundtrack fit for war. The sound effects are also greatly presented, from the explosions of a firing cannon to Nariko's bone-shattering super styles, more on that later, and the voice acting is probably some of the best I've seen in a video game since Uncharted and God of War. From the creative character designs to the superb voice acting, it's no wonder the Heavenly Sword is better looking than most games being released today. At its core, Heavenly Sword is a hack-and-slash game, and if you're familiar with Ninja Gaiden or God of War, then you should have no problem with this game. Like the title implies, Nariko's only weapon throughout the game is a Heavenly Sword, but by pressing either the left or right trigger, the sword is able to change to 2 other different variations depending on the enemies she's facing. Leave the triggers alone and she will fight in her basic mode known as the speed stance. Nariko will probably use this one the most in order to take care of basic enemies. This mode is the fastest of all 3 and allows Nariko to quickly pull off different combos, and the sword takes the form of 2 blades. Press the right trigger and Nariko will enter her power stance, fusing the 2 blades together to create the Heavenly Sword itself. This is the slowest of her 3 stances but makes up greatly offensively. Despite being slow, Nariko will crush any enemy that comes into contact with the sword. This mode in particular will work best for heavily armed guards when she needs an opening in which she can follow up with another attack. Finally, pressing the left trigger will activate the infamous range stance, and I say infamous because of how everyone compared Heavenly Sword to the God of War series as soon as they saw this form. Like Kratos, Nariko will wield the 2 blades connected to a chain link which will allow her range of attack to increase dramatically. Since it is the weakest of her 3 stances, she'll mainly be using this form when she needs an opening against a whole group of soldiers or deflect incoming projectiles. Now, despite the fact that Nariko cannot jump in this game, there is another set of movesets known as aerial attacks. To activate an aerial attack, simply switch to her range stance and press triangle. As soon as Nariko's opponent flies off the ground, by merely moving the controller upwards, Nariko will actually jump to her opponent. From this moment, she has the ability to pull off one of her many aerial combos which will inflict massive damage and kill off her opponent. Although it is a flashy concept, she won't be using it very much, since Nariko will often fight a whole group of enemies and the last thing she'll want to do is leave herself exposed. Defense plays a key role during combat, despite the game not having a block button either. But by literally pressing nothing, Nariko will automatically block any incoming attacks, which can be followed by a devastating counter when pressing triangle as soon as she gets hit. When an enemy attacks, be aware of the color around the opponent. Blue stands for weak attacks that can be blocked in Nariko's speed stance. Orange indicates stronger attacks in which she can block when her power stance is activated. Red, however, is an unblockable attack, so by moving in the right analog stick, Nariko can safely roll out of the way. Note that while in her range stance, Nariko will not be able to block, and when she does get hit, by simply shaking the controller, Nariko can quickly recover from a hard fall. Finally, we come to Nariko's awesome super styles. When she strings together attacks and counters, she will slowly light up one of her 3 orbs next to her life bar. There's one super style per stance, so in total there are 9 different super styles that Nariko can choose from. Each one is awesome and elegant, but downright painful. Aside from the combat gameplay, there are a few levels where Nariko will man the turret, wield a badass portable cannon, or control Nariko's friend Kai. During missions such as these, and when picking up enemies or weapons, both Nariko and Kai will have the ability to use the aftertouch feature. By basically holding down the right trigger, Nariko and Kai can control the trajectory of the different things they either fire or throw at their designated target by using either the 6-axis or the optional left joystick control. There are also a few minor puzzles during the game where you'll need to hit a Chinese bong in order to progress to the next stage, so get used to the aftertouch feature. Personally, one of my favorite features in the game, despite having some flaws in the end. For example, in the levels that you play as Kai, she'll only be able to fight long range with her crossbow, and as soon as you are about to hit your target, the enemies quickly either duck or rolls aside, and if you miss, your combo meter disappears and will be hard to rank up points. Nothing major, but a bit frustrating when trying to collect the glyphs to unlock special content, but more on that later. I was however a bit disappointed on how Kai's moveset is very limited. I was curious to see if she had any flashy movesets like her friend Nariko, but apparently she can only confuse an enemy if she gets too close for comfort. But still, hitting someone in the balls with an arrow is always satisfying. Aside from the main single player story mode, there's really nothing much than the special features. In here you can view the Heavenly Sword animated series, 2 animated episodes in which serve as a prequel to the main game. You can also check the art gallery, which contains many renderings and artwork from the developers themselves. Finally, you can check the makings of Heavenly Sword, which contains about 5 episodes on how the game was developed. Now from the start you'll see that most of this content is locked, but you can unlock them by collecting glyphs. This adds a bit of replay value since some glyphs are more challenging to get, and the more you collect, the more you unlock. Now I would have liked a bit more content such as survival mode, time attack mode, trophies, or even different costumes for both Kai and Nariko. Small little details like these can significantly increase the replay value of a game, but sadly no other content is available, not even DLC, and it's stuff such as this that drags down the game quite a bit. Now to be honest, I didn't play Heavenly Sword when it was released for the PlayStation 3 back in 2007. Heck, I didn't even heard of this game until I was screwing around the demo section from the PlayStation Network. But now that I played it, I can surely say that it's one of my top 10 favorite games of all time. Yes, to me, it's that good. The graphics are top notch even today, the controls are responsive, the story was great, the characters were memorable thanks to Kai, and despite its length, its clunky 6-axis controls, tricky AI, and lack of content, it is a very fun game. I enjoyed it so much that I'm hoping for a sequel. Now, it's not the best PlayStation 3 exclusive out there, but it does have great potential for an entire series. Overall, I give Heavenly Sword a 9 out of 10.
It is hard to remember who I was before I held the sword in my hand. Now it is even harder to face what I have become. Once I fought because I had to, because there was no other choice. But now I see the divine in the heart of battle, the beauty of bloodshed.
Thank you for watching my first time Sub-Zero review by yours truly.